Acquired Taste, a hip-hop podcast hosted by the world's largest rap group. My name is Figure 8. This is episode 67. With me, as always, are my cohorts. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Phenomenal.
And today we have a very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, taste buds, one and all, please welcome Mike Crenshaw. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. It's good to be here, Fig. I appreciate the invite.
Oh,
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate you doing it. We've been trying to get more guests now that I feel like, gotten into a rhythm of the podcast with ourselves. You were just traveling recently? How was that?
Man, I'm always going places, and that's a blessing. Sometimes it gets tiring. So this said, I was recently in Minneapolis, and then I was in upstate New York. Yep.
Nice.
Everything go well?
Yeah, everything goes well. You just get kind of like, it's weird, like life, the way that sometimes when you do a lot of what you love, it loses its magic sometimes. I hate to admit it, but
I can feel that.
Planes, man, I can't wait till I have enough income to always fly first class, put it that way.
Yeah, it's the airports for me. I actually really like planes for some reason, but I never have more pins and needles anxiety than walking through an airport. I wanted to start off to open up the conversation. I'm a transplant myself. I was born in Michigan and came here fresh into adulthood and had a second chapter. I know you had a similar story to that. I wanted to dig into that a little bit. You kind of have two hometowns at this point now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of have three. I mean, Chicago. I was born in Chicago. That was early childhood. Teenage years were Minneapolis, and then I moved out here when I was 22 to Portland. So I consider all three places to be hometowns.
For sure.
And what kind of molded your current artistry the most? Would you always have described yourself as a political artist in the sense that you are now?
For the most part, I started rapping professionally in Portland. I rapped as a hobby and for fun as a kid. So I used to freestyle with my friends and, try to make them laugh and stuff. Wasn't until I got out here in Portland that I really started taking it seriously and started a career. But, what's interesting to me is that even when I lived in the Midwest, people from LA would come to town and they would meet me and they would assume I too was from LA. And so people were always like, man, you kind of have a West Coast thing going on. And I don't know why that is, but even to this day, people are like, some people think because my last name, they assume I'm from LA.
Sure.
But even a couple of my friends that I've known for years are like, yeah, you have a very LA kind of thing going on. So that, that doesn't answer your question specifically, but
sure.
I would say that growing up in the Midwest, I listened to West Coast and East Coast hip hop, and then when I got out, I think Two Live Crew was the first crew from down south that I listened to.
Oh, okay.
And then when I moved into the Northwest, I started listening to Outkast. That's when I started cracking. So I really listen to everything. And sonically, I don't know what influence Portland has had on me, but it's definitely shaped who I am because I've been here so long.
For sure. Here, let me take this to the little more personal side here. You have my first exposure to you was before I even was close with my good friend Swiggle Mandela. I was doing my research of Portland. And one of the very first videos I saw was the video you guys did together. I believe that was at Peninsula Park?
Yep, in the Rose Garden over there. Yep.
Yeah.
Princes and Kings, yeah.
How did that come together?
Well, the first time I met Mandela was, I think, back in like 2007. And we were bringing my business partner, his name is Morgan Delaney. He's a teacher at Portland Public School, and he had been teaching at Jeff. And so while I was doing, developing my career as an independent hip hop artist, I had reached out to Dead Prez to do a show here. So we brought Dead Prez out
Oh, cool.
They did a show and helped us raise money for this computer center that we established in Africa. And
wow.
When we were looking for openers, Morgan was like, "You should talk to these guys, LGFM, La Familia."
That's us.
There are these high school students at Jeff because we wanted to have some younger folks on. So Morgan introduced me to Mandela way back then, and we just been cool ever since. Yeah.
Wow, that's 10 years before I even met him. You brought up Morgan. I have him in my notes a little bit here. You guys co-founded Global Fam together?
That's correct? Right. Yeah. We founded a lifestyle company / independent record label, really just to put out my music and to do shows, to produce shows and promote shows. But, it's a quiet kind of thing. I need to update some of the paperwork with the state, We never really tried to have like a super huge commercial presence as much as we needed something that could be the entity that was the container for my music and the shows that we were producing.
For sure. I also have, let me see. You have done, you brought it up a tiny bit here. You've done a lot of stuff in Africa and with African artists. Do you want to speak to that and your connection to it and how you got the ball rolling on that?
Yeah, I was. There's a organization called American Friends Service Committee, and it's tied to Quakers. And I didn't realize at the time, back in the early 2000s, that Quakers as a religion, they have. I guess there's a section of people who are practicing Quakers who feel like it's their duty to be politically active in a quiet way, but to support peace efforts. And so at the time, I was working on some stuff with the American Friends Service Committee here in Portland. We were going into schools to let high school students know that they could opt out of military recruiters having their private information, like test scores and, whether or not they were living in single parent family homes and whatnot. Because it turns out that military recruiters target kids who are poor and often from broken homes. So I was doing that work, and AFSC invited me to go on a trip to Rwanda. So in 2004, I went on an organizing trip to Rwanda and met with a bunch of people from multiple countries across the African continent to talk about issues that affected young people on the continent of Africa. Through that process, I met some young activists and organizers who, just like me, used hip hop as a means to organize and uplift their community. And a year or so later, they invited me to play a music festival in Zimbabwe. At that music fest, that was in, so I went to Rwanda in 2004. Then I got invited 8 years later, in 2012, to play a music festival in Zimbabwe. And then at that festival, I met organizers of the African Hip Hop Caravan. Started touring Zimbabwe, Kenya, South Africa, and Tanzania. And that introduced me to, I did that for a number of years in a row. And I got really close to some people in Tanzania. And that helped us establish a farm. There's a Tanzanian hip hop artist named Kilaridi, Masai brother. And he's dope. And he's like, I have a vision for starting a farm. So we helped him establish a farm. And he has a beautiful banana farm out there. And he's feeding his people. He's employing his people. So that's one of the current projects that we're engaged in.
Man, that's awesome.
That is incredible. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up. And he may have gotten the name wrong, but you are aware of one of the members of our group, Elijah Autry, Lie the Most.
Uh-huh. That's right.
You were in a group with his mother?
So, Taria Autry, Elijah's mom, we've been close since maybe 1999 or something like that. And we were both slam poets. Okay. And when the first time I went to Africa, Taria was on the team, the group of us who went to Africa together. Wow. Yeah, and Taria and I had a group called Womb Dialectic.
He did get it right. He got it right.
Yep. It was the masculine and the feminine energy the spiritual energy and the intellectual energy. That's what that name represented. And we had a lot of slam poetry, like performances that we did together. Went on tour a couple of times. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I had no idea that his mom was even involved with any of that stuff. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, she's dope. A dope writer, a dope poet. Taria is dope on many levels.
I've read her book. Lie left it here at one point. Yeah, she's incredible. I watched there was like a little interview or a small documentary of you on OPB from a few years back, and I saw you talking about how the predominant subjects and topics in hip hop that were selling was kind of not what you identified with, and that's how your art style was created. But I never hear you shit talking like anyone rapping really necessarily. You always say something like it's not for me or it's not my art style, but I never hear you talking down on the current generation like I feel like a lot of people do.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. It's about energy, and I try to put energy into the world with intention. That's all that is. It doesn't mean that I think I'm better than anybody, but what it means is I don't want to put the type of energy in the world that's associated with dragging somebody down. Because there's enough of that energy. We're oversaturated with that energy.
Definitely.
Hip hop being a black art form originally, even though it's universal now and everybody contributes to it. If you look at the people who are from the neighborhoods, that are predominantly black, and the struggle that people face, we don't need to be tearing each other down. And the only reason that, certain types of rap became commercially popular was because there were people who were making millions of dollars off of these narratives about niggas killing niggas all fucking day. You know what I'm saying? And so when I hear people talk about I'm a fuck your bitch and I'm a murder you, even if the beat is dope, I don't want to consume that kind of energy for too long because it has a fucked up impact on my being, on my well-being. And a lot of people don't really think about that, And if you walk up to a group of young people and you ask them, how come y'all only talk about guns? They're going to say to you, because that's what niggas want to hear. And so we've been conditioned through entertainment to consume a very narrow aspect of the full spectrum of reality. And the people who promote that, the reason they promote it is because they've been conditioned to think, well, this is what people want to buy. And in capitalism, you're not going to take a risk and dump a bunch of money into something where you might not get a good return on your investment. So through that profit motive, the industry stays stuck in a very narrow frame. The majority of the music that's popular is not very diverse in its subject matter. And then think about it we love to see people battle, right? It's not really any different than going and seeing an action movie where Matt Damon or, Arnold Schwarzenegger or somebody is, is good versus evil and somebody's blowing up the whole city and getting in shootouts and stuff, right? So shit talking in rap has a similar kind of appeal because we like to be entertained by violence and conflict.
Since the gladiators, it's yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that people who participate in that are bad people, but what I'm saying is I have a choice over the type of energy that I'm trying to put into the world. And if I want to tear something down, I want to tear down the shit that creates the condition where people feel as if negativity is the only way to get ahead.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very eloquently put. Me and Swiggle were talking about this recently, actually, because me and him have done our best to, when we get together to make an album, to try and push each other creatively into each other's lanes. and me and him have made what I feel like are some of my most impactful serious songs that I'm proud of. I don't like feeling like I'm boxed in as like a comedian or anything. I try to paint a picture of my life, but I try to be a funny guy. I struggle being serious for too long without making it a joke. So when we get to serious topics or wanting to broach politically or just socially impactful things, I always get to a point where I feel maybe I diminish this message because I'm the suck a dick guy most of the time. You know what I mean? And I never want to bring a message or a movement down. And Swiggle kind of feels like that's maybe what we owe even more than. If we're going to be on this half, then we have to make sure people know exactly where we stand. Do you have anything to speak to that as far as like the younger generation now struggling? I don't think everybody wants to be in this box necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, it also comes down to who you are. You know, what I talk about is a reflection of where a lot of my thought generates from. You know, there's the understanding of social issues and political realities. That shit keeps me up at night, and it motivates me to succeed and to create opportunities for myself in ways that might not be so readily available in kind of like a popular way, but that's just who I am, you know? And so I'm just really being myself in a way that works for me. So any artist that might feel like when you listen to, for, you know, some of these younger artists that you might want me to kind of address in answering these questions, anytime you feel like when you listen to popular music, if you feel like you're not hearing enough of what you would like to hear reflected back to you, then instead of complaining about that, it's on you to create what you want to hear. And that path of authenticity presents challenges, but it's going to give you a voice that's not going to sound like everybody else. You know, it's like we can repeat what everybody else is doing, but what is it about how we do it that's going to make people go, oh, that's Fig? You know what I'm saying? And regardless of what your subject matter is, we just have to figure out ways to be original, I think, in whatever it is that we're talking about. I think that when the world is so dark as it is now in so many ways, we do also need people who reflect light in a way where they're not always serious. We do need people that bring humor to the situation. We do need people that are good storytellers that, you know, are authentic, but maybe they're not going to talk about politics, because there does have to be balance. You know what I'm saying? And I think, like, to be critical of myself, you know, one of my biggest fans, she's like, when I come to your shows, it's mostly dudes. Like, we need more women at Mike Crenshaw shows, you know? So when I hear that critique, then I have to also challenge myself. I'm like, okay, well, what's missing from the way that I approach my music that would be more friendly to a female audience, right? So, you know, I could do some things differently too. It's just once you've established the habits that allow you to write, like there's certain shit, and maybe you can relate to this, I don't know, but there's certain shit that just falls out of just falls onto the page when I write.
Yep.
You know? And so it does become a challenge to force myself to write about things that maybe I'm not used to writing about as much.
Wow, that was a incredible answer once again. You're used to this? You do this a lot? You have a couple white kids ask you some questions?
Yeah. You know, I've done an interview, but here and there, or an interview or two. But the thing about it is I'm grateful to be here right now because I do have a new record dropping early in 2026. So having an opportunity to talk about music there's never a better time to talk about it than when you have music coming out, you know?
Well, sure. Let's talk about what just came out. I just listened to something of yours maybe 2 weeks ago. Did that come out?
Yeah, Retribution you're talking about?
Yep. Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. That song is an amazing song. Big shout out to Johnny Cool, Jupiter Black.
Yep.
Yeah, he made the beat. He's produced, I think, about half of the album. and my last two videos, We Are Tigers and Retribution. And, I went to Johnny a couple years ago and I said, Johnny, I need something that incorporates dancehall. For those of y'all that might not know what dancehall is, it's a genre of, it's like a subgenre of reggae music, a more current contemporary genre of reggae music. I want to combine dancehall, I want to combine metal and punk, because those are things that influence me. Jamaican music, metal, and punk.
That's awesome.
And I want to do a hip hop song that has all those elements. So he got busy and made a handful of beats, and so that beat was one. And it took me a couple of years. I got it about 3 or 4 years ago. It took me a couple of years to figure. I overwrote for it. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff, but I was also trying to write a book about my life, being an activist and an anti-racist organizer in Minneapolis. I was also starting to write a screenplay about the same subject matter and had just been in a documentary about that. And so there was a lot of synergy around my work as an anti-racist organizer. And when I finally started trying to write verses about that, I've written verses about that before, but there was something about that beat that pulled out the story in a way that was new for me. And so I knew once I had the bars down, I was like, all right, I need a hook. So I reached out to Tony Hill, and Tony really blessed the hook in a beautiful way. When Tony came to the studio, she was with her son, Tekylo. I think Tekylo was like 13, 14 at the time. Tekylo is like a master percussionist. His dad is Tyrone Hendricks, one of the best drummers, in the country, really. And so he was in the studio and he was restless. And my man Derek, who was recording and engineering, he said, there's a pair of bongos in there if you want to mess with them. So he laid bongos on the track. That was crazy, right? So it brought it up another level. The night before we recorded Tony and Tekylo, I got a message from a woman on Instagram who plays electric violin, and she was like, hey, I'm going to be in town. Are there any shows? I was like, well, I don't know any shows when you're going to be here, but I'm going to be in the studio recording. Maybe you stop by and put some electric violin on it. So she came and freestyled it and killed it. And so that took it to a whole other level. And so one of the things about that track that is really amazing to me is the synergy, because in that track you have dancehall reggae, you have metal, you have punk, you have live percussion, and then you got this woman who plays country electric violin. Within one track, you almost have the full spectrum of the history of black music in the Western Hemisphere.
That's crazy.
Incredible.
That's super cool, honestly.
I like that you didn't set out to make it that either. That it just organically became that. And what do you got coming up? What's on the horizon?
I recorded one of the next songs is another Johnny Cool beat. The name of the song is Africa, spelled with a K. And I featured one of my favorite MCs, A-Revolution, is on that one.
Oh, A-Rev.
Yep, A-Rev is on it. Kila Ridi Masai, the brother who founded the farm in Tanzania, he's on it. He's on a couple of the songs on the album. And we recorded a video for that, mostly shot in Tanzania. So you're going to get to see the banana farm.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's an amazing video. It's one of the best videos I've ever done. We shot it inland Tanzania by Ngorongoro Crater, which is where our banana farm is. And then we also shot it on the island of Zanzibar on the coast.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, it's bananas, bro. So, like, I'm probably late November, I'm going to be dropping that one. And, yeah, I'm excited about that.
And then the album next year, early next year?
Yeah, I'm probably looking at February to get the album done. I keep, it was going to come out in September, then it was going to be October. And so I've been going through this kind of cycle of reestablishing my relationship to releasing music that's not based on rushing a deadline, but that's based on when it's ready, it's ready. I don't want any rushed energy. And so it's been taking longer than anticipated because I'm just trying to make it as perfect as I can.
Yeah, I like that.
Let me ask about I always try to overmake for a project. Are you the same way? Do you make more and then cut down, or do you?
Yep. I wound up with about 18 songs, which I think is too long.
I learned the hard way that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad, it takes a little bit of humility to understand that sometimes less is more, and maybe everybody doesn't need everything.
Yeah, maybe my first album being 22 songs was a bit overinflated, was a thought I had a year later.
I'm in the same boat.
Right?
When you're making it, you're like, they have to know everything that I want to say right now in this. But yes, refining it has been, and that 22 meant I made 50 and had to cut it down to that. But I've tried to make it much more concise now, where like I don't want to make 2 years worth of music and then cut it down to the point where like I've lost stuff that I don't feel like is me anymore. Like I never want to lose art because the art isn't good enough, but just because I'm in a different place. I always want to get it out as it is me. It's interesting to hear you bringing up deadlines, because we've been going through a very similar thing of wanting to be professional as we can and have goals and have, timelines to keep us focused. But we never want to cross over that line where the art or the work or our content suffers in any meaningful way. How do you strike that balance personally?
It takes time, and that's why I've learned this lesson a few times, where you have to if you rush to get an album out, and I've done a lot of that. I've rushed to get singles out. I've rushed to get albums out, and I'm not going to say which ones I rushed, but what I will say is that after I listened to them repeatedly, I discovered, oh shit, that wasn't as good. That song or those two songs weren't as good as they should be. And you can start to hear it in a way that only becomes apparent after time. So I've been listening to this album on repeat, and to the point where I'm damn near tired of it. But it took me doing that to understand that I would be better with 12 of the songs than with 17 or 18.
Yeah. It feels like, especially, and I hate being one of those guys that's like, I always identified with J. Cole's Middle Child. Like I grew up with the rise of auto-tune, so I didn't have the same disdain for it that the people who raised me did. But I also grew up where I got beat up if I looked at somebody else's notebook, and you had to sell CDs out of your car, and there was no streaming. So like I was right in the middle, and I hate the whole like TikTok or today's kids don't have the attention. Like, make the music you want to make. If it's long, it's long. But I do feel like I have to adapt to the times instead of shaking a fist at it. It doesn't feel like the answer.
I feel like there's always some sort of balance with that, just similar to like rapping about certain topics and stuff, but like knowing kind of what people want to hear. I feel like there's just a general balance you got to strike with everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the critique of the old head is not a critique that a lot of people want to hear. Maybe other old heads want to hear it, but that's about the only people that agree with you are the ones that want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? And so even though I might not be feeling certain things, I've learned to kind of keep my opinion to myself. Another thing I want to note, you guys, and I've said this before, let's go way back. Remember Young Jeezy?
Mm-hmm.
There was a time where I didn't like Jeezy's music. But when I went to Atlanta and was kicking it down there with my people from Atlanta and heard it in Atlanta, I started to like it because I started to understand the environment that created the music and that impacted the artists that made the music. So with some of the newer stuff that I might not be, listening to attentively, after a while, some of it actually grows on me.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I adapt to the energy of it in the time that we're in.
I felt the same way about Jeezy when I first heard him, but like realizing that I'm probably not the demographic he's trying to reach. After a while, listening to his stuff, now there's songs that I have like on my playlist that I will listen to, and I actually, like things like that definitely have grown on me.
Well, to speak to the locality of it, being from Detroit, I didn't know who E40 was until Big Sean put him on a song, and I didn't get it. You know, like it didn't make any sense to me. I'd never heard anything like it. But then living out here, all of the music that just exists, and I see how it was created, I see the people who make it. When I go back and I listen to stuff that's just normal for me, my friends in Detroit will be like, "Who the fuck is this, bro?" And I'm like, "Oh, you don't know about so and so Phil person here?" They didn't even know about, like, my younger cousins didn't even know who Nipsey Hussle was. Like, it's interesting the locality of things, of not just not being exposed to it, but not understanding. Like, they were like, "Why is it so slow?" And I'm like, because, like, I don't know how to tell you that you've only listened to Jay Dilla or Eminem or Royce to 5'9", what's going on here. But it definitely is, it's crazy how location-based hip-hop is.
Definitely.
It's kind of cool that it still exists a little bit, because the regionalism is what made things unique. And I worry sometimes that some of that is lost in the era where so much sounds the same, you know? So I was actually kind of glad to hear you say that some people still don't know. But yeah, I encountered that when I first moved out here, and the regionalism was kind of it kind of put me off a little bit, because a lot of E40, when I first moved to Portland, like E40 was like the number one thing that people listened to. And it took me a minute to get E40. Now I got people telling me that some of my bars sound like E40. And I don't hear that, but I guess it's had an influence on me.
I don't hear that stuff either, but when people compare me to a West Coast artist now on a song or whatever, it always, like, it shows me the deep influence just being here and being, or, like, it's just how it's made. That's how they ended up like that. There is a in-rooted thing in wherever you are that builds the sound of that. Even though, obviously, like, the roots, I like that I was so close to New York that I got a lot of, like, old school hip hop that I don't think I would have gotten as a 13-year-old in Portland. I got as a 13-year-old in Detroit. But you can just see how the foundation was spread. And to speak on Atlanta, I didn't get Outkast when I was really young, and then my grandpa moved to Atlanta, and my dad started listening to Outkast, and it's crazy how quickly things can make sense to you in just a split second. I do want to bring up, to work our way back a little bit, is you have an entire project with a good friend of mine, Micah Fletcher. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, man, we put out one album called Brink of Distinction. Last of a Dying Breed, or Load B was the name. And, you know, it's sad because there are some really good guys, when I think back, that at the same time they had a group called Load B in town, and we didn't know about it, you know. And there was actually it wasn't beef. Like, I don't think they ever put out any diss tracks or anything. But from what I understood, they were pretty pissed at us. You know, and because we didn't purposely bite their name. We just didn't realize it, you know. And once we realized it, it was kind of too late. And I would have loved to have talked it through. But anyway, it is what it is. Mike and I put out one record. We haven't gotten back. We have a second album partially written, but we just kind of went. Like, we're still tight, but we went our separate ways creatively just because life. It wasn't like a thing where either of us was explicitly like, I can't fuck with you no more or anything like that. If anything, he wanted to get back in school and focus on some different aspects of playing drums, like playing live drums. And he's in a band now. I don't recall the name of the group, but he's playing drums and he's super happy about that, you know.
I hadn't seen him.
That said,
I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I was at, like, a Jack in the Box or something at, like, 2 a.m. Yeah. And when I got to the window, they were like, the driver in front of you paid for you, and he circled back around and saluted me and drove away. Yeah, he's a great guy. I remember seeing you guys live.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people on earth. If you don't know him personally, you might not get it. Yeah. You know? But I had the pleasure of mentoring Micah when he was younger. I met him as a poet, and I saw him performing. He was in this youth organization, and I saw him performing. and we were just in each other's orbit a lot. And his spoken word is, it's the kind of thing that could move you to tears, you know, like he's deep as a poet. And, so anyway, him and I were around each other in these different environments, and I was seeing him perform poetry. And at some point, he pulled me aside and he was like, "Hey, man, would you consider doing a project with me?" And it was funny because, like, I was like, "Man, I've been fucking thinking about that, and I just didn't know like how to approach it." So like, it was like a dream come true that he asked me to do it. He went through a tragedy. And almost lost his life. And he got, for a brief moment, he was pretty famous from that. And it really bothered him, you know? And so, you know, that was challenging, I think, for him and for me, because I was like, I don't know, it was weird. It was like I tried to put myself in his shoes, and I wanted to respect the boundaries around what he was feeling. And I can't really speak for him, you know, but I know that impacted him a lot. The music on that album is dark and it's hard, and I fucking love it. It's one of the hardest albums I've done. It's got a kind of a grimy boom bap vibe to it. Theory
it's
has
industrial.
it.
Yeah.
It's industrial, you know, it's kind of punk and it's hip hopness. We did a lot of like rock against racism shows, rock against fascism shows during that period. And, you know, Mike is the skinhead, you know, and he, in the sense that, you know, I've also been a skinhead in my youth and into my young adulthood. And he actually became an honorary member of my crew. And so, you know, I just feel like there's a lot of affinity that we have, and when we have a great deal of respect for each other, you know, as people and artists.
Wow, that is I didn't know how it blossomed to be what it was. I just remember seeing it start and thinking it was cool, and then finally getting to see you guys perform. I don't remember where it was, but such a cool project, such a random combination of two people I respected that also happened to know each other. We don't want to keep you too much longer, but we do have to ask. We listen to albums every week on our podcast, so we ask a guest to add something to our spin wheel. We spin a wheel at the end of the episode to find out, do you have an album that we could throw on there, either from yourself or an artist you think we could or should listen to or have listened to? Oh, that was a real thinking face. Did you see the full statue?
The transition, yeah. It's like the video game meme. When
I was going to say forward. That, yeah.
I wonder, this is tough. I'm really having to think. I'm like, who?
I love that they care so much. Every time our guests care, like they want it to be a
Most
good
of our
thing.
friends give us bad albums, so like anytime we get like a guest to give us one, it's great.
Yeah, right when we get you off here, we have to talk about Will Smith's newest album. That's our friends. That's yeah. 2025 Big Willie is what we had this week.
Will Smith is a trip because he actually says somebody sent me a of his the other day, and they're like, "Does money buy happiness?" And have you seen that?
Yeah. His little clip.
Yeah, and I appreciated I appreciate that the brother could go deep and get metaphysical about things. You know, you always got to respect that, even though some of his raps are, you know,
they are what they are.
They are what they are.
They are what they
but,
are.
You know, I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go old school, man. And because I'm going to take us back to the time. I think I even had a cassette tape of this joint. But this hasn't happened for me as much recently. But this was an album, a rap album, that I listened to non-stop for at least 4 months. And there's a few albums that
that's a fiscal quarter.
120 days. There are a few albums that I interact with like that anymore, just because life is a little bit too busy. But Mac Mall, Illegal Business.
All right.
It's been added.
Have y'all rocked that album?
We haven't. No.
It's from the 90s, so I don't know how it'll hit now for y'all, but that shit was
We listen to a lot of 80s and 90s. I would say it's 50-50. Half the time we get something before our time, and half the time we get 2025 Will Smith. You know, like it's a trade up. Thank you so much. This comes out every single Thursday. Is there anything else you wanted to tell our listeners? We're one of the top 200 music podcasts in Spain. So if there's something you specifically want to say to the Spaniards, now is your time.
Yeah, we don't know why, but
I understand there's a good anti-racist skinhead scene in Spain. I understand that the city of I guess there's a good anti-fascist subculture in Spain. So keep doing what y'all are doing over there.
I love that.
And bump Mike Crenshaw. Check out Retribution on YouTube. Check out We Are Tigers on YouTube and my whole catalog. But more than that, you guys, I need people to subscribe to me on YouTube. Mike Crenshaw, MIC, like short for Michael Crenshaw, CRENSHAW, and give me a follow on Instagram at Mike Crenshaw.
I just subscribed.
We'll put
Thank you very much.
All of Mr. Crenshaw's links in the description below. And if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify right now, we'll have Retribution linked to the episode so you can click through it there. Thank you so much for doing this, Mike. We would love to have you again. And if you ever need the world's largest rap group for anything, you will have a goofy group outside your door.
Well, okay. So can I ask you guys a question?
Please.
Explain the name. What is it?
There we go.
But that's a beautiful. I love the name, but I'm like,
thank you.
Where did that come from?
My name's Figure Eight, as you know. And if you Google me right now, it's not like Pitbull where I come up before the dog. Like, you're going to get knots and racetracks for 35 pages before you get me. And my name's been Figure Eight since I was 8 years old. The Antelope Fisherman turned 10 in February, so I was pretty deep into being ungoogleable. And I just remember we had a couple of normal names and ideas that felt like a conventional thing. And I was just like, guys, in 2 years, we have to be the only thing that comes up when you Google us. Like, I can't tell you how many fans I lost just by not being able to go look me up on YouTube or whatever it was, and not being able to find. Still to this day, if someone saw me dressed in a bird costume on the street, filming a music video, and asked me to look myself up on Spotify, and I had to type in my whole name and the name of the album to get it to come up. Yeah. Andrew was there during that time. You're one of the founders.
I don't even remember how we specifically came up with it, though, other than just like.
I think it was a joke. I think it was a placeholder. Yeah, we were like, Antelope Fisherman. No one's ever been named that. Like, we put two words together for a while. Like, we were the Orange Ravens or the you know what I mean? We were just trying to. And when it locked in, it was what it was, and we can't change it now. It's been too fucking long, and it's just who we are. That's
dope, man. I love the name, y'all. Thanks for reaching out and having me, and man,
absolutely. Yeah, we would love to have you again. And now you're in the server. You're in the Discord server. So you ever come back, you know how to get in. Have a great rest of your night. And again, if anyone wants to find Mike, we'll have all of his links below wherever you're listening to it. And if you're on Spotify, you can click directly on his song through the page. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Peace, y'all.
Yeah, see you later.
Take care, man.
All right, before we actually get into what we're gonna do, I gotta go get some water. My mouth is so dry.